board gamers, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now, today's video, I'm going to be giving an overview on what happened at Gen Con 2023 for me. You see, I was really fortunate this year. After wanting to go for a few years, the universe aligned, and I was able to get to Gen Con this year. So I went out to America for a couple of weeks. The first week I was out there, I spent over in San Jose at Will Brown's house. Now, you may know Will Brown from the channel The Hungry Gamer. If not, go and check out The Hungry Gamer, some excellent board game reviews on there. And Will held in my honour something called Powdered Wig Con. So it's a Brit going over there, called it Powdered Wig Con. It was myself, it was Will, it was Will's wife, Sarah, it was obviously Beatrice the dog, it was Peter Vaughan from Cardboard Alchemy, behind obviously Flamecraft and Andromeda's Edge. And we played the upcoming game from Cardboard Alchemy, the spiritual successor to Flamecraft, which is called Critter Kitchen. And we also had Bernie Lynn from Dead Alive Games. Dead Alive Games obviously doing Omicron Protocol and Lunar Rush. More on that in a wee while. And it was pretty much a week of just playing games out in San Jose. Had a fantastic time. If you want to know more about it, go and check out Will's channel. Will and I have done a video on there, on his Board and Brew section about Powdered Wig Cons and our favourite experiences from there. So I did that for kind of a week, and then I flew from San Francisco over to Chicago, then jumped in a car at 6 o'clock in the morning and drove 200 miles to Indianapolis, where I was sharing a house with the guys from Dead Alive Games. So I spoke about Berlin and Dead Alive Games. They were I was very lucky that they had a space at their Airbnb house about 20 minutes outside of where Gen Con was, so I was then there. So I got there on the Wednesday, and I went along and registered on Wednesday afternoon at the convention. Now, I've never been to Indianapolis before, certainly never been to Gen Con before, and I must say, from my perspective as a solo traveller, it was very easy to get my badge. Admittedly, I had a press badge, so there is a will call line which gets very busy throughout the weekend, but I could go into a particular space and get my badge, and then I was ready for the entire convention. So Wednesday is a bit of, the actual convention isn't open, you can't get into the halls, but there's loads of stuff going on. There's some kind of demos and play tests happening, and there's open gaming available, not just in the convention, but at various hotels around there. So on Wednesday evening, after I'd got my badge and done the rounds, etc., I then got to play a game of Lunar Rush, and this is Lunar Rush. Now, this came out from Dead Alive Games. It came out on Kickstarter last year, successfully funded, and backers will be receiving their copy shortly. Now, this was a game that's designed by Will Brown's brother, so I'm a little bit biased on it, but I got to play a game, and it was taught, although I played it many times, I didn't need teaching it. It was taught by Adrian Gilstrap, and it was myself and Maggie and Amy from Thinker Thema. Now, it's the first time I've met Maggie and Amy face to face, and I've played a few games with them over the course of Gen Con. And they are just as lovely in real life as they are on the videos. These two are absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed my time with Maggie and Amy. I'm hoping to see them at Essen a little bit later this year. So we played a game of Lunar Rush. I think it's great. I think it's a kind of wonderful kind of mid-weight Euro that just allows you to do lots of actions, and certainly in a competitive game, all the actions are pretty much simultaneous. You're kind of getting resources and then converting resources, etc., going up to the moon and coming back. Had a lot of fun with this. I played it solo a number of times throughout its development and for the preview as well, and the solo is really good. So that was kind of the only game that I played on the Wednesday night. I then went to the kind of street food thing that they have, and I met a guy who I've been speaking to online for quite a while. It's a name you've not heard of, probably not heard of, and this is Chuck Case. But I will say that if you played a David Turkson solo mode in the last couple of years, then Chuck's mitts are going to be all over that, because he's one of the developers and lead developers for David Turkson's team on solo mode. So it was great to meet Chuck finally face to face, and we just bumped into each other and spent quite a bit of time with each other throughout the entire conference. And it was great. I was just having a beer, having some food. Chuck recognised me, came over. I was on my own at this point, of course. Recognised me and came over and started talking, and that was most of the night, just talking to Chuck and having a beer, etc. So that was kind of the Wednesday night, and then we moved into Thursday. So I went back to the house, obviously Wednesday night, where Bernie and the guys were staying, a really, really nice Airbnb that we had. And then Thursday, it was the convention properly. Now, I got there for just about the time that the convention doors were opening. You don't have to stand in the queue. There's no real benefit unless there's a particular game that you want to go for. There's no real benefit in rushing through. However, within about 5 minutes, I was into the convention itself. Now, I had a meeting set up more or less as soon as the convention opened with one of my all-time favourite designers. Now, if you follow the channel, you know that I think Nemesis is an absolutely fantastic game. It's a top 3 solo experience for me. I know it doesn't work for everybody solo, but it's a top 3 solo experience. You got Nemesis Lockdown on the back of that as well. And recently, I reviewed Lords of Ragnarok from this same designer, and up until that point, it was my solo game of the year. It's probably going to change now based on what's arrived in the last couple of weeks. And I've spoken to this guy a number of times on instant messaging. I've interviewed him. We've had conversations. He knows I love his game. So it was an honour to meet the great Adam Kwapinski in real life. And I got to demo for the first time, I played it twice during the convention, his upcoming game, which is Horror on the Orient Express. It's going to be published by Chaos Inc. And it's all of kind of your geeky, nerdy game tropes in one. It's Cthulhu and it's on a train. Now, being an Adam Kwapinski game, this is not an easy game to win. There are more ways to die than there are to win. And effectively, you're on a train and there's some passengers on the train and there are some monsters outside, some of the Cthulhian monsters outside. Some of these passengers are in league with these Cthulhian monsters. As well as these passengers, these kind of 6 passengers on there, you've got a number of other passengers who are in various states of distress, from happy down to irate, going insane, etc. And you've got to keep on top of those whilst battling the monsters, while trying to find out which of these 6 passengers that you have cards for are in league with Cthulhu. And there's a really good element, a kind of push your luck element, where you're trying to expose certain clues to find out whether you can identify who is in league with them. And all the while this train is zooming along, you've got a vampire on there, and every time the train moves along, it unveils a new card, and when that new card happens, new portals open, new bad things happen to you. It was an absolutely wonderful experience. Now, this comes out to Kickstarter, I think, kind of March next year, so we're still a wee while away from it actually being delivered to backers. If the Kickstarter or GameFound campaign is not till next March, then we're a good 18 months away at least from getting it delivered to backers. But I absolutely love this. I played it twice over the convention, and everybody I spoke to, Michael Kelly's, your Jeremy Howard's, etc., who also demoed it over the convention, they also thought it was great as well, and it was ranking again right up there in my top game played at the convention. Then it was just usurped by one, but it's really not bad company to be into. So if the idea of a push your luck, a Cthulhu train style game where you get to increase the powers on your characters really appeals to you, and it's fully cooperative, and it's solo or fully cooperative, then you need to keep an eye on Horror on the Orient Express, designed by the one and only Adam Kwapinski and being published by Chaos Inc. So that was kind of the first meeting on the Thursday morning. Now I'm going to keep looking at my phone because I've got like a pictorial timeline of what happened on the throughout my period there. So then I had a bit of a wander around, and I ended up bumping into Chuck Case again, as well as David Turksey. Now, I'm David and I get on very, very well. So it was great to speak to David. He was over at the Mindclash Games stand, and I also got a demo, I think later that day, booked in for Perseverance Episode 3. I love Perseverance 1 and 2, but it was great to meet and catch up with David again. And then the time came to go and demo Perseverance Episode 3. So Perseverance 1 and 2 came out, I don't know, about 12, 18 months ago, something like that. And these are these games where your craft has been stranded on an island. It's slightly futuristic, and you have to, first of all, kind of fight the dinosaurs. Then you have to explore the land. Well, this is the next phase from Episode 2. Episode 1 is kind of a good intro into it. Episode 2 is where the real meat and potatoes of the game is. Episode 3, different map, less moves on there. I think you've got a total of 8 turns throughout throughout the entire game. I think it's 8. And effectively, you're wrangling dinos. You get to you get to put saddles on dinos and ride them as you compete with the other people on the island, as well as trying to explore more of the island and get bigger and better dinos. And it was an absolutely fantastic and first-rate experience. I'm not too sure when it's coming to crowdfunding, but the game as it stands is pretty much in its, it's very playable. We didn't play a full game at the demo. We played kind of a few rounds of it, but it's pretty much at a full, exactly as you would expect of the game itself. Really, really thoroughly enjoyed that. That was great fun. And then Wednesday night, I met up with Michael Kelly from One Stop Co-op Shop. So Michael and I are good friends. We've spoken for the last 2 or 3 years, a number of times each week on Messenger, etc. So myself, Mike, and Will Brown, we got this little trifecta, if you like, of people, of content creators who speak regularly. But I never met Michael face to face. So I met Will a couple of times, but I never met Michael face to face. So this was absolutely fantastic. I got to meet Michael for the first time, which was great. And we ended up going to the BGG Gaming Lounge, where we met with Candice from Board Game Geek, and also, again, Maggie and Amy from Thinkathema. And we played a few games. We played some trick-taking games. Now, as a solo gamer, I've never played trick-taking games. Obviously, you don't really get to play them as a solo gamer, but we played a couple of trick-taking games. One of them was this absolutely wonderful game called, and I will tell you in a second, it is called Le Plateau. And effectively, you've got this kind of bidding mechanism that happens in there. And with this bidding mechanism, you're bidding to kind of guess what suits you're going to get and how you're going to make your way across this board, because there's a board and you get to fill in pegs on it as and when you complete certain things or capture certain cards. So this was one that Candice brought across, and it was utterly fantastic. I mean, really, really, really good. She's got this beautiful small little wooden box with it, and we've got some French-style tarot cards, and we played a couple of rounds of Le Plateau. Now, after never winning a trick-taking game, I think Michael Kelly was on -12. A couple of others were down in the. One of them was down in the minus. One of them was up in the slightly in the positive figures, and I think I won the game on +15. So average jaws dropped ever so slightly there because of the fact that, yep, a non-trick-taking person won a trick-taking game, and it was really good fun. So if you got, like, it's not necessarily a solo game, but if you got a penchant for trick-taking games, then check out Le Plateau. You can get these special boxes for it. I think you have to get your own cards. Really wonderful trick-taking game. Then Michael and Peter Goosis, both from One Stop Co-op Shop, have got another game of theirs coming out to crowdfunding, I think, in October time. So they've designed some games before. You've got Salvation Road, you've got the Mega Man game that they designed as well, and they have a game coming out called Flame and Fang, and it is a solo or multiplayer cooperative game, and it's this kind of emergent storybook where you have some tiles set out in front of you, and your aim is to, as these dragons, is to go out and defeat monsters on these tiles, but also to try and then defeat the big bad. It was a wonderful game. It took about 60 minutes, including the teach, and Michael's given me a preview copy, here we go, for the Kickstarter or GameFound preview, which is, as I say, is happening in October. Really, really good solo or co-op game. Of course, I'm a little bit biased because I'm friends with Michael, but be sure to check this out on my channel a little bit later in the year for some idea on whether you want to back that or not on Kickstarter. So yeah, we spent kind of, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours playing trick-taking games, playing Flame and Fang in the BGG lounge, and then Michael, Candice and I went for some food the next day. So that was kind of Wednesday. Now, you may notice that I'm not demoing a lot of games. You see, a lot of my time was spent kind of meeting up with people and publishers that I have obviously been speaking to for a long time, but I've never really had the opportunity to meet. So Gen Con is pretty much what you make it. You can go along, you can demo all you want. Now, unlike, say, Essen or UK Games Expo, if you want to demo a game, you've got to pre-book it in advance. It generally costs about two bucks to kind of pre-book a demo spot, basically. But you've got to book it in advance. So it's very rare that you can walk up to a table and just say, hey, right, okay, I want to demo this game. Ideally, you've got to book them in advance. And I purposefully didn't pre-book that many things because I knew there were a lot of people I wanted to meet. And also, I just wanted to soak in some of the Gen Con experience. So that was kind of the Thursday. Then we moved through to the Friday, and Friday morning started when I finally met Edward Taylor King from Kinson Key Games, and Derek Funkhauser was there from Board Game Spotlight. I'd met him the day before, and Edward took us through how you play Galactic Cruise. Now, Galactic Cruise is this Lacerda-like, not light, but Lacerda-like game that is coming to Kickstarter, or GameFound, I think it's Kickstarter, in Q1 of 2024. And effectively, you're aiming to kind of build the best space tourism ship and fill it with the right kind of people and head it out there. So you're collecting points as you do this and various components, etc. We only had kind of 35 minutes on this, but it was really, really good. I'm looking forward to receiving a preview copy of this prior to the Kickstarter. It's going to be distributed in the UK by Dranda Games, so Aidan and Simon over at Dranda Games are going to distribute it. And there's a lot of promise in this game. I really enjoyed what I saw in this game, and the artwork is of course sublime because it's by the one, the only Ian O'Toole. So if you've got a Lacerda game, you know Ian O'Toole's artwork is fantastic. So that was kind of 8 o'clock in the morning. After that, on the Thursday, I had to go and spend a few hours in urgent care, not because the game was so good, but because in the Airbnb, because there were people in the room snoring. I'd got some wax ear plugs, and one of them had come off and gone right down into my ear canal, which was very, very annoying. It actually happened on the Thursday morning, but I couldn't do anything about it on Thursday morning because I've got a day full of meetings. So I went and spent 2 hours in urgent care on the Friday morning while they poked, prodded, washed, scraped the inside of my ear for 2 hours. It was so sore, but when they pulled that last bit of wax earplug out of it, I was like, oh my God, this is just, I can hear again. It was like when you clean your glasses. So that was kind of a bit of a delay into my Friday, but that was good. And then it was time to kind of have a wander around the convention itself. So I kind of wandered over, spent some time talking to Chip Theory Games, more on them on the Saturday, and they gave me what you can see here. So 20 Strong is their upcoming game, which successfully funded on GameFound last year. It's going to get delivered to backers in the next few months, and they had 20 early production or pre-production preview copies earmarked for content creators. So they told me before, you can come and pick this up. 20 Strong is a gaming system. You've got the kind of the main pack of the game, which is this here, which has got Solar Sentinels in it, as well as some dice and some counters, etc. But there are also additional packs. So I've got the Too Many Bones pack, and I've also got the Hoplamackers Victorian pack, which is set out on the desk now. And it is effectively a dice game. And it's a dice battling game. And although the rules work more or less the same for each of these packs, there are rules differences in each of the packs. A game probably take you about 20 minutes or so, depending on whether you're successful or not. And so far, I have played the Solar Sentinels game, I don't know, about 8 times. I was playing it in the airport before I came home. I played the Too Many Bones version about 5 or 6 times, and I'm just on to my second or third game of Hoplamackers Victorian. Really, really, really enjoying 20 Strong. It's a really fast and effective dice combat game with the cards coming out, and you're battling cards, and you've got your pool of dice, which you either exhaust or you keep, etc. Really, really good and well worth looking for. I will have a video on this in the next week. I just want to play Victorian a few more times before I'm in a place to actually do the review video. So that was kind of my my first call at Chip Theory Games. Then I met up with a guy I've been speaking to for a long time. So back in 2020, I was due to go to Gen Con. And then, of course, we'd booked the flights, so etc. But then, of course, COVID hit, which meant that all travel plans were restricted and Gen Con didn't happen. When I was due to go in 2020, I was meant to go and meet up and spend some time with Derek Rodriguez. Now, if you don't know Derek, he's from Solo BG Podcast, really, really good podcast that broadcasts in English and in Spanish as well. And Derek is exceptionally passionate. So this meeting was absolutely long overdue. There were hugs, there was laughter, there was talking. Derek is an absolutely lovely guy. His wife recently gave birth to two beautiful twins. Two twins, of course, to beautiful twins, and it was great to finally meet Derek, and I got to play a game with him, or demo a game with him, on the next day, on the Saturday itself. So then it was over to another demo area, and we demoed, myself, Michael, and Peter from One Stop Shop, and Jeremy Howard joined us a little bit later. We demoed Defenders of the Realm, coming to us from Greater Than Games. So this is the next iteration of Defenders of the Realm. It's a cooperative game where you're on a fantasy map and you're battling creatures and big bads to try and beat them. There's some card play involved. Again, a lot of fun here, a lot of fun. I can see how the different scenarios can play out. Really bright artwork on the map. The cards at this stage, they're still in development, so there's no artwork on the cards. And we played, I don't know, for maybe 20 or 30 minutes of this. Some nice dice-based stuff that happens in here with your different characters having different powers. Really, really fun game to play. So keep an eye out for Defenders of the Realm coming from Greater Than Games at some point in the future. And then what happened is myself, Michael and Jeremy went out and we got some chicken wings and we met up with Peter Vaughan from Cardboard Alchemy, who obviously joined me at Powdered Wheat Con, and Jenna Beasley from Board Game Garden, and went out. We had a good laugh about chicken wings and tried to satiate Jeremy's insatiable sweet tooth. And then we headed to a place called Tappers. Now, if you don't know Tappers, if you've not been to Indianapolis, it's a retro video game bar. And you go in, and as long as you're buying a drink, then all of the video games are free. So we were playing Tapper, we were playing Tron, we were playing Gauntlet, we were playing the Simpsons arcade game. It was a load of fun, and as we were there throughout the night, loads of other people came in. So Danny Stranding, Grant from Grant Gets Games, Seppi Yoon came in, Henry Audubon from Cosmoctopus came in, and it was great just to kind of finally meet a lot of these people in a social setting. It was a really good night, and I was just a little bit tipsy at the back end of it, but given the fact that I had my ear scraped out earlier that day, I think I deserved a drink. So that was kind of the Friday at Gen Con. So then we move into the Saturday. And I mentioned Derek Rodriguez from Solo BG Podcast. We'd met the day before after obviously speaking and meaning to meet a couple of years ago. So I met up with him again back at Adam Kwapinski's booth, and Derek and I played through some more of Horror on the Orient Express. And again, Derek fell in love with this game. And Derek's a true Adam fanboy. He brought his Nemesis box for Adam to sign. Nemesis is his all-time favourite game, and again, the game just didn't disappoint on the second playthrough as well. It was even more fun. Now I understand the mechanics about what was happening there. So yeah, really make sure you try to go out and you try and check out Horror on the Orient Express. Then it was a time I'd been waiting for quite a while. You see, as you know, as you can see from this, I got on very well with chip theory games, and Elder Scrolls came out on GameFound last year, was successfully funded, but because they didn't have any preview copies, etc., I never got to play it. Well, I had my time booked in for a demo of Elder Scrolls. So Andrew Santoro from Chip Theory Games and I spent 2 hours playing through a scenario of Elder Scrolls. Now, Elder Scrolls is like the next iteration of Too Many Bones, and as you know, Too Many Bones is it's in my top 3 games of all time, so pretty much like Nemesis. I generally have everything that the Chip Theory produce. This is like Too Many Bones on steroids. It is the next iteration. You have dynamic maps which open up as you move to new rooms. You've got some of the same combat from Too Many Bones. You've got the characters, and you can shape your character however you want at the beginning as well. So it's not as prescriptive as, say, getting a gear lock in Too Many Bones. You get to kind of shape your character to kind of the type of character it is, be that orc or whatever. The kind of subclass it is it an orc knight, and what it specialises in. So I had an orc knight which specialised in two-handed weapons, and we played through this scenario where we were going through various places on the map trying to unearth this secret, and you're upgrading your powers all the time, kind of, you know, your strength all the time, and you're gaining items, and you're fighting bad guys, and you're trying to get to the bottom of the mystery. And it was absolutely excellent. I cannot wait to play more of the Elder Scrolls from Chip Theory Games. Although it's been a long time coming for me to actually play this game, I can't describe just how good it was. Now, Too Many Bones I played, I don't know, maybe 100 times. This has, I know it's only one playthrough, so it's really early, it has the potential to usurp Too Many Bones from me. However, I love the kind of shaping your character. However, you don't get those prescribed characters that you do in Too Many Bones. So, if that is your jam, that you like the prescribed characters, then, you know, this may not swing that way for you. But for me, it kind of answered a lot of some people's criticisms on Too Many Bones. One of the main ones being, you know, the relatively kind of small tactical map that you get on Too Many Bones for combat. Well, here you've got these entire tiles that you're adding to, etc. So you've got potentially relatively big areas. So your tactical combat becomes very, very different. And I found that kind of working with Andrew, we could really work through this solution. But it took some working through. We were almost down at one point until we finally got to do it. Now, the pictures that you've seen and the photos that you've seen are of the obviously very, very early prototype copy. These are by no means the finalised components at this stage, but still, even at this stage, the majority of the gameplay is there, the lore and the book is there in terms of the story that you're going to do. You've got a branching narrative that you can take many different paths on, so no two games are going to be exactly the same. And I was truly, truly blown away by just how good Elder Scrolls by Chip Theory Games is. If you didn't back it, I don't know if late pledges are still open on GameFound, but it's certainly one that if you have an interest, certainly in the Elder Scrolls world, if you have an interest in Chip Theory Games, if you love Too Many Bones, if you want to find something that gives you a bit more of an RPG element, then by all means go and check out the Elder Scrolls from Chip Theory Games. And then that night, went out for dinner with Chip Theory Games, and also at the table we had Devon Norris from Lucky Duck Games, Alex Radcliffe and Professor Meg from Board Game Co. Now, Alex and I had met a little bit earlier at the day at the Chip Theory stand, and again we've spoken a number of times, Alex and I, but we'd never actually met, so it was great to spend some time with Alex and the guys from Chip Theory. They bought us a very nice dinner while we were out there, and I even got them at one point to say, got the entire table at one point to say good night to my wife, as it was bedtime back in England, and got the whole crew to say good night to me.
3, 2, 1. Good night.
After a few hours at the dinner and quite a few drinks, I was then off to something I'd really been looking forward to. You see, Bernie, Lynn, who I was staying with from Dead Alive Games, had booked the house all into something called True Dungeon. Now, outside of solo gaming, I'm a D&D guy as well. I've got a regular D&D group at home. And True Dungeon is kind of a real-life walk-through Dungeons & Dragons experience. And I turned up just on time, but more than a little drunk, and I had to shape my cleric character, and then you go through a number of rooms, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 rooms, something like that, as a group, and you've got monsters coming out at you, and characters coming out of you, and you've either got to solve some puzzles, or do some combat, and if you get to the end of it, that's it, you get to rank as a survivor. They give you some chips, because you kind of place chips on your character board, to give your characters, and people that do return visits keep the chips, therefore they get extra chips each year, basically, and they can build that up. We won. We got through the entire thing. We solved the dastardly puzzles. We managed to beat the combat. 3 of us died on the very last room. I was a cleric, I gave health to everybody, and then I got killed in an unlucky die roll, which was just a die roll, and my symbol came up and that was it. I was just dead. However, as a group, we won, and I still like to think that I had a key part in that victory, as drunk as I was and even dying near the end. And it was so much fun. It was a lot of fun. Now, they run a number of sessions throughout Gen Con, but and so if you want to book it, you have to kind of put in a number of sessions that you want to go for, and then just keep applying, basically. So Bernie did that for us. We got in I think it was 10 to 10 on the Saturday night. So yeah, I was a little bit tipsy. It was great fun, and I would highly recommend it if you like the idea of immersive D&D style adventure that lasts about an hour and 20 minutes, something like that, with puzzles and with combat. Then go and check out True Dungeon at Gen Con. I also know True Dungeon run a number of events throughout the year as well. So that was kind of the Saturday, and then it was time for bed whilst I went there for the Sunday for the last kind of half day at Gen Con. And my Sunday started off relatively early, around about 8:30. Chuck Case had, I mentioned him earlier, had invited me to play a copy of David Tixon and Simone Luciani's upcoming game, which is going to be released at Essen this year, which is Nucleum. Nucleum is effectively, there is a new power that's come out, and you have to try and you build railroad tracks as you're trying to distribute this power and power your cities, your ever expanding cities, as you try to beat the other players by doing this. So it was myself, it was Chuck, and it was Mahir, who is the designer of Viticulture World, I believe. So the 3 of us played, it took about 2 hours there or thereabouts, played a game of Nucleum on the Sunday morning. Really enjoyed this. You know, it is a Euro, and it feels a little bit heavy, but once you kind of get into the flow of it, the turn structure happens really nicely. Now, because of time constraints, we literally rushed the last third of the game. So it wasn't a true game, but we had kind of, you know, the first session is while Mahir and I were both learning the rules, and the second third of it was kind of really getting into the strategy of it, but then we had to rush ever so slightly because I'd got a meeting coming up on the kind of I think it was 10:30, something like that, or 11 o'clock. This meeting coming up, so I had to rush through it. But we got there, played the full game, albeit rushed. Really enjoyed my time with Nucleum. Hopefully, Board and Dice are going to be sending me over a preview copy prior to Essen, so I can review the solo mode on it. Obviously, David and Chuck have worked on the solo mode. I think Chuck was the lead developer on that, or David was the designer of the solo mode. Really works very well from a multiplayer perspective, and I believe I saw the solo cards, they look relatively easy to work with not too much overhead. So if kind of Turksy and Luciani based Euro on power, really important to me in my real-time job. I'm a business development director for a net zero consultancy, so energy and power is really important for me. Then you need to check out Nucleum. Essen release day, of course you can put your pre-orders in with Board and Dice. Then I left there and went over to the Dead Alive Games booth. Because yes, they've got Lunar Rush, which is here, and I'll have a review coming of that in the next few weeks. But they've also got a game coming out in the same kind of, in Omicron Protocol universe. So their other game is Omicron Protocol, which is a skirmish game, and they've got Cyber Pets, which is like an entry-level, family-friendly dungeon crawler. You put cards down, and you play these pets who are trying to defeat the Sims and do certain things. Really nice. It's got a campaign structure that you can play multiple ways in multiple times, so it has a kind of an infinite shelf life, if you like. And it's going to be a really good, quick and accessible game for seasoned dungeon crawlers, but also if you've got younger family members who are interested in kind of getting into board games or different types of board games, then they're probably going to want to go and check out Cyber Pets, coming from Dead Alive Games, I think in October time. I've got a preview copy on its way to me. Now, if you've seen the channel and you see my top 10 list, you know my favourite solo game of all time is Kingdom Death Monster. And this is the one show where KDM actually have a stand. I didn't get to speak to Adam Poots, he was busy in a meeting when I got there, but I did go and have a look at some of the goodies that are there. I've got the Gambler's Chest, I've just got shipping notification for the Gambler's Chest expansion, so that's on its way to me. I adore Kingdom Death Monster. It's long, it's involved, it's brutal, it's childish in places with some of the kind of the cock and balls kind of humour that's in there, but it absolutely works for me. It's almost a game it's almost a hobby in and of itself, Kingdom Death Monster, and I've probably spent more on the base game and various expansions than maybe, I don't know, 50%, 60% of my entire board game collection. So I do have the Gambler's Chest expansion coming to me, but there were some lovely photographs there on kind of what to expect from what's in there in Kingdom Death Monster and some of the expansions. So really brief kind of rundown about what I saw at Gen Con. There were obviously loads of other games, loads of other things happened, but these are kind of the key things that happened throughout my kind of 4 days there. Thoroughly enjoyed it. In terms of an exhibition, in terms of a convention, it's a little bit smaller than Essen, but it felt a bit more friendly than Essen, and I just want to thank everybody that I met over there. Thinker Thema, Michael Kelly, Jeremy Howard, the guys from Chip Theory, Alex from Board Game Co, Devon from Lucky Duck, Adam Kopinski, Derek Rodriguez, all of the people, Derek Funkhauser, the Dead Alive Games guys, all of those people that made this as a solo traveller and a solo gamer, a really heartwarming and friendly experience for me. It was great just to kind of wander the halls and just speak to people. Some people knew who I was, some people didn't know who I was, and that was equally great as well. And there's lots of open gaming there. Unlike at Essen, there's no open gaming at the convention for Essen. It generally happens back in the hotel rooms afterwards. Had an absolutely fantastic time. Utterly loved it. I thought it was absolutely great. And the bonus being, when I got back, Voidfall from Mindclash Games was waiting for me as well. I'm pointing down there, you can't see it, but Voidfall is down there, I promise you. From Mindclash Games came for me as well, so I've been playing Voidfall almost relentlessly since I came back. So it's been a really good few weeks in gaming. Now, you'll see lots of Gen Con hauls from people, lots of various things from people. I was really restricted in what I could bring home because, of course, suitcase space. Once I left Gen Con, I went to Chicago for a couple of days, and then I was flying home from there. So I was really restricted. So I've got my Gen Con haul is relatively low key. I've got my copy of Lunar Rush from Dead Alive Games, so there will be a review coming up from that. I've already talked about the preview copy of Flame and Fang coming from MVP, so Michael Kelly and Peter Goosis. That hits Kickstarter in a couple of months. AJ Porfirio over at the guys that do Final Guild, etc. So Final Guild is one of my favourite solo experiences of the last few years. I've got both of the seasons. Met AJ, I met him previously at UK Games Expo. He gave me a wonderful Final Guild t-shirt, which you'll be able to see in the Final Guild review video coming up before the end of the month. And he also gave me the alternate miniatures for Final Guild Series 1. And you got Hans, Poltergeist, Incanyamba, Geppetto, and Dr. Fright. So I'll be playing with those the next time that I play Final Guild. And then from Mindclash Games, they gave me a copy of Astra. Now, Astra doesn't have a solo mode in the box, but John Albertson designed a solo mode, which is available on BGG. And I think there's John and Nia Norbert Zalgi, I think his name is, designed a solo mode. So I'm eager to try that solo. And that was literally my Gen Con haul. As you can see, it wasn't overflowing with stuff. It wasn't masses of stuff. Oh, and of course, I got 20 strong, which you can see here as well. But it wasn't overflowing with stuff. But it was less about getting games. This was more about playing, about meeting people for me. And I think that is the true essence of Gen Con. It can be whatever you want it to be. Whether you're a board gamer, a tabletop gamer, whether you are a role-playing gamer, whether you're a card gamer, whether you like dice, whether you like terrain, you like scenery, all of these things are there, and it's just wonderful to spend every day for kind of 4 days, 3 or 4 days, just wandering around, looking at everything that's out there. You know, people were going away with big bags of stuff that they bought, and that's absolutely fantastic. I bought a t-shirt and I bought a dice mat, and that is really all I bought from Gen Con. And then I got, obviously, I got gifted these as well. But other than that, yeah, I didn't buy anything else purely because of space. But it is absolutely what you want it to be. And as a solo traveler, you may, if you're going solo, you may be a little bit worried about Gen Con. It's such a friendly atmosphere there. It really is a friendly atmosphere at Gen Con. There's so much happening from first thing in the morning to late at night, be that open gaming, be that food events that are happening. You know, if you want to book lots of events, then make sure that you get there in plenty of time to navigate the will call lines, because for every event you book, you have to get your tickets, and the will call line at some points could have been like an hour and a half and maybe 2 hours long. So you're going to have to allow plenty of time for that. But once you do, and once you understand how Gen Con works, you're going to have a fantastic time. I'm hoping I get to go again in the future. I can't guarantee it's going to be next year. You know, at some point I'm going to have to go on holiday with my family. This was me completely solo for 2 weeks in America. But I had a fantastic time. So check out, obviously, some of the games I've talked about. Go and have a look at some of the other videos and other people's hauls and what they played, etc. Fantastic time. Thank you to everybody that made me feel welcome. Thank you to all the publishers that showed me what they got and the demos I was allowed to have, and some of the copies I brought back. I'll be doing reviews and previews on some of this stuff over the next few weeks. I've got the 20 strong review video coming next week, but this weekend on the 19th, I think it is, I'm on Paul Grogan's channel at 7 o'clock UK time in the evening, and Paul and I are doing a solo playthrough of Voidfall from Mindclash Games, so make sure you check that out. So thank you very much for allowing me to tell you what I saw at Gen Con. Other videos from other content creators will have a lot more stuff in there, so you know, if Gen Con's of interest and you want to see what's out there, then make sure you're looking for it. You look out for those stuff. For me, the top games of Gen Con that I played were Elder Scrolls, Horror on the Orient Express, and Nucleum. So make sure you check all those out for their various campaigns and their releases, etc. Once again, thank you very much for joining me on this video. My name is Mark. This is Not Board Gaming. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought. If you can't find anyone else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.
3, 2, 1. Good night!